Hi everybody, it is Julie. Welcome back to Pages and Pens. Today I am here with a mid-year check-in, my faves, my flops, what I'm looking forward to in the next half of my reading year, as well as my stats. So let's jump right into it. So we're going to start off with my flops. There's not that many. Of course I had DNFs, I had 2-star reads, I had 3-star reads. That's just like the nature of the beast, right, when you read. And I have read a lot already this year. We will cover all of my numbers and stats a little bit later. But I have 3 specific books that just really let me down, where I think I was expecting more of the book. I was anticipating really, really loving it, having it connect with my soul on a deep, deep level. And that didn't happen. So those are going to be like my most disappointing reads. Were there worse reads? Absolutely. Were these horrible reads? Not at all. They were just personally my most disappointing. So let's jump into them. First up, and probably like the least disappointing on this list because I had the lowest expectations, is V.E. Schwab's The Shades of Magic Steel Prince graphic novel. I had high hopes for this. I did get like the Barnes & Noble exclusive because I thought the cover was cooler, but in the end, I was not a fan of the art style, wasn't really super a fan of the storyline, and I'm a little bummed out I spent the money on this when I'm pretty sure it's on Hoopla. I probably could have just read it there. I didn't need to own it. I know it's just the first one, but it really felt like such a build up to things that may eventually happen. And again, the art style is just not one that I enjoyed on the inside. So unfortunately, this felt like I wasted money when it really could have been something that I loved. This one missed the mark for me. Next up, and a giant bummer for me, like I still have not written the review for this because I'm just really bummed about it. That is Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. This is the second of the Imperium trilogy, the first one being Furyborn. Furyborn, I 5-starred. I really, really loved it. This one, I tabbed and I annotated and I have thoughts and I have opinions, and the writing is still great. I still love Claire Legrand as an actual writer, but the plot and the character development and the character decisions in this one really didn't fit the way that the characters have been set up throughout the rest of the series, and so the things that happened in this just didn't make sense to me. The plot direction that Claire chose to take didn't make sense to me. I'm not the creator of these characters, I'm not the creator of this story, so it's not up to me to get to say where things go, but as a reader, I was unsatisfied and let down. Whereas there's still a lot of sex positivity and awesome feminist shit and magical beasts and whatnot, yes. Was there still angsty, maybe I want an angel who I shouldn't want drama? Yes. But then things happened and it bummed me out. So this one was a big letdown because I really wanted to love this. And I just didn't. And I actually haven't gone on and looked at anybody else's reviews of this now that it's out. But maybe I should, because I'm wondering if anybody else feels the way that I do. But this one really let me down. I really wanted to love it. I think my biggest disappointment this year so far is going to be one that hurts me so much more than it hurts any of you. I know a lot of you, when my Goodreads review went up, had started commenting on Twitter and freaking out in my Goodreads comments because this was almost like an automatic 5-star for me. I think everybody expected it to just be an automatic 5-star. And that is Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. This is a sophomore novel to The Wicked Deep. The Wicked Deep, which I 5-starred and championed and absolutely love, even though it has its problems and it is not perfect. This is not one I'm going to be doing the same to, I don't think. And I say that because I gave this 3 stars. It's probably more of a 2.5. Shay has said that she did a lot of changes. She did a lot of last minute edits. She has said in her Instagram posts and stories that the version that we read early in the arc is not the version we're going to get in the finished copy. I have a finished copy already pre-ordered because the pre-order, I believe, is going to have the same foiling and beautiful hardback that The Wicked Deep does for the first editions, and I want it, and I want to support Shay as a person. But this fell really, really flat for me. The same atmosphere, the same vibe of The Wicked Deep, where you get this spooky, mystical, magical, eerie coastal town. You get this for this mountainous, foresty region 100%. Her settings almost become a character in and of themselves, And unfortunately for me, the character of the setting in this book was better than the actual plot and characters of this book, which sucks. And I think that there was a ton of repetition in this book. There were a lot of phrases and themes and items and sayings repeated over and over and over and over again. And I found it really unnecessary, really frustrating, really distracting. The way that the plot went in this was something that I had anticipated from the beginning and wasn't a fan of. And the execution of it, to me, didn't feel like it was woven the way I like to see it. It wasn't woven the way that I feel The Wicked Deep was, where the plot kind of comes together and you're left a little surprised by it. This one was pretty predictable to me, and I didn't end up loving anything about it except for the atmosphere and the setting and the writing, which is why it still gets like a 2.5. There were parts of the characters that I enjoyed, but on a whole, I didn't connect with anything. That hurts me so much, but that's just the sad truth. And so those were my 3 most disappointing reads of the year so far, which is a bummer. But then I also have some surprising reads, some 5-star reads that I was not maybe expecting, that kind of came out of nowhere, that were left field reads that I ended up absolutely loving. A couple I do not have physically, and that is Jack of Hearts and Other Parts by an author whose name I can't remember. But this one came around, was it for Contemporary-a-thon? I think Chelsea read it and was raving about it, and I was able to find it in audiobook, and was it audiobook or was it an ebook? Either way, I read it, I loved it. It was a complete left field read for me. I think I 4-starred it. I don't know if I 5-starred it. I don't think I did. And then I absolutely really, really enjoyed it. So that was a surprise, even though it wasn't a perfect book for me personally. Absolutely amazing. Along the same lines, an absolutely remarkable thing by Hank Green. I don't have that physically because it was a traveling book for my Patreons, and I read it and I annotated it and I sent it out into the world, and I really enjoyed it. This was one that was not on my radar. I had no interest in it. I was never intending on picking it up, and then one of my Patreons picked it as the traveling book that they wanted to have annotated and then receive and keep on their shelves. And I loved it. Really, really enjoyed it so much more than I thought I was going to, and I ended up 4-starring that. Again, not a perfect 5-star read, but a complete surprise. And again, another one that I would not have picked up unless people had started talking about it, and I ended up really having it be one of like the surprise bright moments of my reading year so far. So that was fantastic. Then we have a couple that I do have physically. So first up is going to be Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa, which I don't know why I'm so surprised, but I don't think I was anticipating loving this. The basis for this is a girl who is a kitsune, which is like a part human, part fox, and she goes on this epic quest after the monks, like the place where she's been living, has been attacked, and she's been sent out on this mission, and this is her life's mission, is to get this item to another monk place. What are they called? I don't know, words. She has to get there, and she needs help along the way. She meets people along the way. This was a 5-star read for me. I ended up really, really loving it. I did listen to it in audiobook. I will say there are trigger warnings in this book for spiders, for like spider-like beasts. I was not okay with it. It was not a fun time for me, but I ended up still loving this book. And it's definitely one of my favorites, one of my rare 5 stars for the year, because there's not been many 5 stars this year, guys, at all. That has been one of them. Also, completely out of left field, this one was Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. I have not read her first book, which is Saints and Misfits, but I found this on NetGalley, and I read the e-arc, and I absolutely fell in love with Alex and Zainab. This story is so fantastic. It's funny, it's quirky, it's lovable, it's so endearing. I love Alex's relationship with his sister. I love both of their relationships with their families. We have so much unpacked in this, from chronic illness, generational illness, what that does to a family when people are sick. We have Islamophobia and all the different varying ways that you face racism, whether it be like thinly veiled, like passive racism versus like very overt in your face racism, how you deal with that, the anger, the stages that you go through in handling things like that. A lot of grief is unpacked in this. There's great friend groups in this. Overall, such a beautiful contemporary book that's saying so much more than you think. You're getting so much more from this story than you even realize when you're reading it, and it was just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely loved it, and I'm really glad that I got to read it early and also got to meet S.K. Ali at BEA, and it was a beautiful thing. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. If you have not read this one, I can't speak for Saints and Misfits, but if you have not read this one yet, I really suggest you pick it up because it is wonderful and one of the best books that I've read this year. Guys, the struggle is so real always just to have my battery packs charged and ready to roll. So we're going to jump back in. It's been a hot minute. To my faves, I'm going to throw out Red, White, and Royal Blue here by Casey McQuiston. Is anybody surprised? I think not. Again, this is one that I did not necessarily lead the charge for because a whole bunch of people had read this prior to me, and they were right. It is really, really good, and I ended up really loving it. It is a little bit of a political band-aid that just gives us hope that things can be different and not what they are right now in the US, and also an amazing, really cute love story with a ton of texting and social media and like really valid references. It was adorable. I forever stand by the scene with the turkeys as being like one of the funniest scenes I've ever read in a book ever, and I love it. So I'm really, really happy to have this book and to have been able to read it early and then just fall in love. So I'm really glad that this is one that's getting a lot of attention because I think it's just a fantastic, really fun book, and sometimes you need a lighthearted read. None of my other reads have actually been super lighthearted. They've all been a lot heavier, so that was definitely the most like fluffy and fun-hearted of my faves so far. And then we have two more, and I don't think anybody is going to be particularly surprised by either of them. The Wicker King by Kay Ancrum was my very first read of the entire year. Thank you to the Dragon NT Book Club. And this one is a 5-star read. It was 1000% my kind of book. I tabbed it up. I found so much to love in this book. I found so much heart, so much grit, so much pain, so much healing, so much love. Everything about this really, really worked for me, but I 1000% understand why it doesn't work for everybody. I think that the way that this was crafted is genius. I think the way that Kay Ancrum writes, the way that she structures her stories is absolutely remarkable and brilliant, and it keeps you reading, it keeps the pace quick. I think that the way that she writes characters and that she writes friend groups, especially the way that she handles relationships, is so complex and so diverse and so beautiful, and I absolutely fell in love with it when I read The Wicker King, which is why I immediately reached out to her publishers and got myself an ARC of The Way to the Stars. Where this one might be a little polarizing because it does have a fantastical element to it, this one I think is a lot more universally amazing. It does have like a tinge of sci-fi in that it discusses space travel as being something that is a little bit more attainable than it is right now, and space travel past where we've been able to go. Other than that, this is a contemporary novel. It again follows a very troubled group of people. It follows queer characters, diverse characters. It follows this amazing found family. It goes through so much about grief and loss and heartache and healing and the pain and the stages that you go through when you deal with these things. It shows such love and acceptance. It shows how complex our world can be, how vast our world is, how much it exists outside of ourselves and our own expectations, how we can't control necessarily the choices that other people make and how you live with the repercussions that other people make. It is stunning. Again, crafted in a way that keeps the page turning, again with characters that are so compelling and so heartwarming. I'm not even kidding. You can see the end of this book is warped. You can see like mascara stains. This is all like literal wear and tear from tears. Like my pages are warped on my ARC. Again, another one that I tabbed, another one that I annotated and wrote in. I am forever thankful for this year. 2019 will forever be the year of Kay Ancrum for me. It's the year that I found her stories, that I fell in love with her stories, that I found her characters, and I really think that this changed me as a person, which sounds so cliche and so like dramatic, but as a writer, this did change me. I found parts of her writing and her style and her characters that changed the way I wrote, that changed the way I think, and these are the highest of 5-star reads for me, and by far my standouts at like the top of my list that I continue to go back to as when I think about my favorite books of the year. I've had a really low year for 5 stars. We'll go over the stats, but I have not had a ton of 5-star reads. These are the highest of 5-star reads for me, where I have forever championed the Wicked Deep or the Serpent King or This Adventure Ends. Those are all still 1000% favorites of mine, and I love them all with my whole heart. Kay Ancrum will be somebody that I champion as a human, as a writer. I'm very, very happy that that I found her this year, because these books really mean a lot to me, and I love them with my whole heart and soul. I think you should read them if you haven't yet. So those are definitely my standouts. I do have a couple books that I anticipate loving that I'm going to share as well. These are books that I have not read yet. Some are backlist, some are arcs, and these are books that I would like to get to this year because I anticipate them being favorites. Like, I think I'm going to love them. One of them is City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I have a feeling I'm going to love this book if I just get around to reading it, and it just hasn't happened yet, which bothers me because I feel like I know I'm going to love it. I don't even know that much about it, but the way that people talk about it, I feel like it's going to be right up my alley. I just need to make the time for it. So this is one that I am like constantly angry that I haven't gotten to yet, but I think I'm going to really, really love. So I think I might do a buddy read of this one coming up soonish, like maybe in fall, maybe in September for like a round contemporary-a-thon to give myself a break after contemporary-a-thon. Maybe I'll pick this one up and buddy read it. So if you want to buddy read this with me and you can wait until September-ish, maybe we'll do that then. Also, which may make it into my contemporary-a-thon TBR, who knows, Girl Made of Stars by Ashley Herring Blake. I love Ashley Herring Blake's writing. I fell in love with Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World this year. I 5-starred that. It's another phenomenal book. This is a contemporary I've been meaning to get to for the longest of times and have not yet. I know I'm going to love this. I know I'm going to 5-star it. I know it's going to be a hard read, but I know I'm going to fall for it. I just need to make the time for it. So maybe contemporary-a-thon in September. Also, I feel like I'm going to feel the same way about The Simple Wild by K.A. Tucker. Everybody loves this. Everybody has read it. They say it's her best work. I've not read anything else by K.A. Tucker, but I think that this is where I'm going to start. Again, maybe this will end up as a contemporary-a-thon TBR because it's just been way too long since I've had this that I have left it unread. So I need to jump on the Simple Wild bandwagon here, especially because I believe they have another book coming out really, really soon that people already have arcs of. So I need to read this one because, again, I feel like it's going to be a 5-star read for me. I just need to finally pick it up. Then I have an arc that I'm hoping to get to in July. So maybe by the time you won't. I won't have read this by the time you see this. But The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow, I feel like I'm going to love. I also put this on my Reading Rush TBR because I thought it was just 10,000 Doors of January. The 10,000 Doors of January is definitely 6 words, but I put it on for a 5-word title because I didn't think the was there. I just thought it was 10,000 Doors of January. So, whoops. But I anticipate loving this. This is about books that smell of other worlds and this giant estate that has all of these doors. And I don't know if it's going to be like a true portal fantasy or what exactly it's going to be, but I am here for it. I think I'm going to love it. Have you guys ever had one of those days where you're like, if one more thing goes wrong, I'm just going to break down in tears and absolutely lose it? Or is it just me? Anyway, back to where we were. The 10,000 Doors of January is one that I think I'm going to really, really love. I anticipate giving it 5 stars. I hope. I have not yet 5-starred any of the arcs that I have read from BEA or ALA, and I'm really hoping to find one that I can champion and really like lose myself in. I've been striking out, but again, I have high hopes. The highest of hopes. And similarly, I have really, really high hopes for her Wicked Saints by Emily A. Duncan. I think that this is going to be up my alley in terms of darker fantasies. I have high hopes that my friends' recommendations and my friends' reviews are going to steer me the correct way. Will it be a full 5-star? I'm not sure, but I do think I'm going to lose myself in it. And that's really what I'm looking for. I actually have this is like the weirdest book now, but I have a signed and personalized copy of the book that I got from Good Choice Reading, but I put the OwlCrate exclusive cover on it because I prefer the darker cover. So mine is signed and personalized. It's not the OwlCrate book, but it has the OwlCrate cover. So that is a book that I have now. So those are the books that I am disappointed in, the books that I have absolutely fallen in love with, and the books that I am hoping to absolutely fall in love with. And again, whether or not they end up being 5 stars, some of my favorite books this year were not actually 5 stars, but they were just such surprises for me. The fact that I laughed out loud at a Hank Green book, at all of the different like social media references or the pop culture references, or that I fell in love with a sci-fi-ist book, like blew my mind that it was not on my radar, and then I absolutely fell in love with it. You just never know. It goes to show you just don't know, because these were anticipated 5-star reads and they were both 3-star reads. And then you get another read that you just didn't expect to love and you end up loving it. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think that I have the potential to have a whole bunch of 5-star reads coming up soon. I haven't had a ton yet. So we're gonna go over some stats. So far this year, I have read 93 books for a total of 29,984 pages, which is an average of 322 pages per book. And I am 93% of the way to my goal of 100 books for the year. So in July, if I've already read 93 books, I don't think 100 books is going to be an issue. 100 books is never usually an issue for me. I've done 220 something. I've done 175. I've done just over 100 in my year since using Goodreads, which has only been about 3 years. I started using it when I started doing BookTube. But I try to keep it low just because I know I'm going to be writing, I'm going to be doing other things. I may not have the time to dedicate to reading that I would like to have. Ideally, I'd love to have a whole bunch more, right? So then I also keep a spreadsheet with some stats, and I'll go over some of those with you right now and just assume and hope that they're super accurate. I haven't gone over my spreadsheet to double check everything in quite a while, so before the end of the year I will do that, but these are just like my mid-year stats. I have DNF'd 3 books. I have given 0 1-star reviews. I feel like I either DNF or I 2-star because I find some merit, otherwise I wouldn't have kept reading, right? I have had 6 2-star books. I have had 27 3-star books, 38 4-star books, and 21 of those have been 5-star books. If you break it down by kinds of books that I have read 6 sci-fi books, 25 fantasy, 4 magical realism, 12 graphic novels, 34 contemporary, 0 nonfiction, 5 thriller, no anthologies yet, no historical fictions yet, 9 romances, which I also count as like smutties. I have annotated 33 of the books, and I have not annotated 61. I've been doing a lot of library reading and audiobook reading, which I obviously don't annotate. So I think that for the books that I actually own, I've been annotating almost all of them. I have read 66 young adult. I have read 27 adult and 1 new adult. I have read a couple of middle grade, but they're not showing on here as middle grade, which is weird. No classics. I have read from 11 male authors, 83 female authors, and then some that are both. I don't know why those are not categorized yet. I have had 14 male main characters and 60 female main characters, and then under ensemble or gender neutral, there's 19. A known author, new to me author, and debut author, something in there got messed up. So I don't know those stats, but I've got 8 debut and 44 known authors, which means my new to me authors is pretty high at 93 books. I have kept 66, unhauled 13. I got 17 from the library, so that was not an option. I have had 44 physical reads, 13 ebook reads, 37 audiobooks, and I have purchased 3 of the books that I've read, like new to read. I have gotten 24 off of my shelves, 18 from the library, 4 from boxes, 28 ARCs, and On my Nook, I have definitely read some, and it's saying none, which is weird. They were on my Nook, but they were library books, so they were not like already on my Nook that I've gone through and read. And 12 were gifted to me. I've reread 5 books. I have read 23 books that were diverse by race, 36 that were diverse by sexuality, 1 that was diverse exclusively by disability, and 4 by chronic illness, 16 by mental health, 2 by religion. I have read 40 in the publication year of 2019, 13 in 2018, 11 in 2017, and 0 2020 reads so far. I've had 12 buddy reads, 33 readathon reads, and then 65 regular reads, and 5 TBR jar reads, which is not great because I stopped doing those. Those are my general statistics for right now. Again, I'm seeing things in here that are definitely incorrect, so I'm going to have to go through and fix my stats. That's what you learn when you finally pick up your stats. I fill in as much as I can, but clearly there was something amiss in my spreadsheet. Where am I? How am I feeling? And what is my check-in for the middle of the year so far? I'm happy with my reading. I think that I have reached a place of acceptance where I realize that my focus on querying my novel, writing my second novel, is going to take me away from reading. I've also come to the realization that the summer is not going to be my highest reading time anymore because as a nanny, the kids are out of school, I have a much shorter break in the middle of the day, and the kids are just more active. I don't have access to the kind of time I do while they're at school. So I'm actually reading a lot less than I would be normally. A lot of my reading would be taking place at night when I come back from the end of the day, and that time right now is being solely dedicated to writing. What I am not particularly thrilled about is my ratings. I would like my ratings to be higher. I feel like I have not found a book that I want to champion and a book that I love and rave about since The Way to the Stars. The Way to the Stars was a February read, and I read The Wicker King in January and fell in love and raved about it, and The Way to the Stars in February and raved about it. And since February, I have not found a book that spoke to my heart, that moved me to tears, that I can absolutely just lose myself and geek out over and recommend to everybody. I have not had one of those reads. I've had 5-star reads. I've had really great reads. I miss that feeling of finding something that I can say is like my book. You know, like if you think about me, I want you to think about this book. I haven't had that since February, and I'm happy just having one of those each year, and that's fine. But I would like to be enjoying what I'm reading a little bit more than I am right now. And I know that that's kind of just the hit and miss of when you're reading a whole bunch of arcs, which is what I'm doing right now, because there are no early reviews. I don't have any knowledge going into it. I'm just kind of going in blind and hoping that I fall in love with the stories. And that hasn't happened yet, but again, I have high hopes that it will. And I do think that I'm going to be allowing myself, like I said, I have a giant, massive stack of arcs that I need to read, want to read, but I am going to be allowing myself to fit in some of the books that I think will be 5-star reads that I will love and that I will enjoy and that I anticipate 5-starring. I might do a dedicated just 5-star prediction video that I can look back on so that I have that video to pull on whenever I'm questioning exactly what I can read, because I'm not in a slump, but I'm definitely starting to feel a little dejected that I haven't had that passionate read in a really long time. Here's to the next amazing 5-star read. I want to know what yours is. What book this year have you read that you just want to champion? It speaks to your soul, speaks to your heart. You tell everybody that you meet that that's the book they need to read. I want to know what that book is for you. So comment that down below and let me know. That's been my mid-year check-in. I hope you guys have appreciated the books that I found to be a little underwhelming, super, super surprising and amazing. The books that I am anticipating really loving. That is it for this video. If you liked it, be sure to give me a big thumbs up, click subscribe, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Bye, guys.